Early voters have been hitting the polls in record numbers in the Carolinas. With the election just days away, big issues like abortion rights and inflation are driving people to vote. But climate change also tops the list of concern. In North Carolina, 64% of people are concerned about climate change, but they think that only 40% are concerned with them. So joining us to talk about these concerns and the misperceptions is Dr. Ed Maybach. He's the director for the Center of Climate Change Communication at George Mason University. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Maybach.
Hey, thanks so much for chatting with me.
I find this research so interesting because the numbers tell us, okay, we're worried and we're concerned about climate change, but we're not sure all of our friends are too. Can you help explain that gap? What's going on here?
Yeah, there's a really wide-held misperception that while most people in Charlotte included, 7 out of 10 folks in Charlotte are worried about climate change, but most people think that they're in the minority. And being in the minority is not necessarily a good place to be. It feels you worry that if you speak up and talk about your concerns, that you might end up alienating friends or pissing somebody off. But in reality, those of us who are concerned about the climate, we are in the large majority. And the reason why it's so important to talk about it is if we've got a problem, you got to acknowledge it publicly and talk about how we want to deal with it. What do we want to do? And so if we're not talking about the problem, we're probably not moving forward with solutions.
Talk a little bit about, the solution space here. We've spent so many years trying to get people to understand that climate change is a problem. And I think we've come, and you have the data to show this, that we've come such a long way in getting people to understand that climate change is here and it's now and it's us. How are we, when it comes to understanding what our options are in our solution space? Are we as divisive as we might think that we are when it comes to the solutions?
Uh, our polling shows really clearly that when we ask people about different actions that can be taken, for example, accelerating the uptake of clean energy, moving away from dirty fossil fuel energy and embracing the clean energy revolution, most Americans are really all for that. And that really is true across the political spectrum. Even people who don't want to accept the realities of human-caused climate change, they recognize that burning fossil fuel is dirty business, and there are better 21st century approaches to creating the electricity and the other forms of power that we need to run our communities and our economy. So there's a whole lot more agreement out there, across Charlotte, across North Carolina, across the country, in the fact that a better future for us is a clean energy future.
As, like you mentioned, some of that extreme weather becomes a little bit more obvious to us, right? Like we just had Ian roll through, and it's just got so many of the signs and symptoms of climate change. Are you finding that it's driving more people to the polls, or are we waking up a little bit and saying, hey, you know what? Like, I think we need to make sure this is on the ballot or vote for candidates that are concerned about this? Is it driving us to vote?
It it's a hard question to answer. What I can tell you for sure is that a large majority of folks prefer to vote for candidates who are going to get serious about climate change. By at least a 3-to-1 margin, voters want to vote for candidates who are going to support climate action, as opposed to candidates who are want to continue to stonewall on this issue. But it's climate change is not the only issue that animates people to go to the polls and who they vote for. This current election season is probably we're probably at historically partisan, level of partisan disagreement about a whole range of issues. But the one that I can speak to with certainty is that across the political continuum, even really amongst conservative Republicans, people are ready for leaders who will take this issue seriously.
I'll wrap up with this. I love asking, are you optimistic, right? We just talked about how we need to talk about this more to, get the action and the solutions that we need, and even just to get people to understand, like, hey, you're not alone. We're all really worried about this. Are you optimistic that we're headed in that direction, that we are talking about it more and can get to a place where maybe we lose this misperception and as we get more solutions out there?
Yeah, fundamentally, I am optimistic. And there are so many reasons to take the kind of actions that are going to help us deal with climate change. And the beauty of taking those actions is we don't have to wait many decades to benefit from them. The benefits begin to accrue almost overnight because by cleaning up our energy supplies, we get cleaner air and cleaner water almost immediately. And we get better health as a result of having cleaner air and cleaner water almost immediately. So I think that as the misinformation starts to get cleared away and people really understand how profoundly beneficial climate actions are, not only in the long term, but in the short term, I'm confident that we're all gonna lean into this one and say, all right, now's the time. Let's get serious and make this happen.
Yes, because we know that window is rapidly closing to get serious and make this happen. So Dr. Ed Maybach, a public opinion expert with the George Mason University, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye.